What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Geek Pantheon. I am Eric, and today I wanted to give you all a bit of insight into how I operate as a dungeon master, and hopefully that can give you all some ideas and inspiration for your games at home. I'm going to be talking about what I do in terms of backstories that my players provide to me and how I go about incorporating them into my campaign and thinking about what I want to do down the road. And this is specifically how I am thinking about this upcoming home game that we've had, session 04, and we're going to start playing soon. And I have players, the backstories are coming in, and one that came in first, so therefore is the one that I am have been able to dedicate the most time to thinking through. Let this be a lesson for all you players out there. The quicker you get your backstory in, the more time the Dungeon Master has to utilize it. So anyway, one of my players also, if you're a player in my campaign, go away. You're not wanted here. But thank you for checking out the channel. Be sure to like before you go. Maybe subscribe. That'd be real neat. Anyway, okay, so this is the backstory for a character in my campaign who is a Warforged barbarian named Ben Steele. Love it. And the player sent me the backstory, and I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version. It was actually only 3 paragraphs long, relatively short backstory, which is appreciated because this player included enough good details that are actionable for me while keeping it brief and not exhausting to read. So thank you. So anyway, Ben was found in the back of an abandoned warehouse and was basically taken in by a horrible, terrible, no good person named Castor who owned a tavern. And so Castor basically enslaved Ben and made him be the bouncer in his bar because Ben is a very large and intimidating figure as a Warforged. Even though Ben is a really peaceful, loving person, he's pretty chill. But Ben was forced to be mean and throw people out and stuff like that. So Ben was leading a very awful life and was not happy until one day a mysterious cloaked figure came into the tavern and spoke in a strange tongue that disabled the collar around Ben's neck that kept him subservient to Castor. And so Ben grabbed a battle axe and killed Castor and took off looking for this hooded figure, and was unable to find them. And I came back to my player because part of the whole thing is, why are you on this island that we're exploring, and why are you here, and what are you looking for? And so I added an amendment to the backstory saying, can we say that Ben went out looking for this hooded figure, and the only lead that Ben could find was that they got onto a ship headed for Osprata, the new island that's been discovered. And then Ben was told, oh, another fleet of ships won't be heading out to that island for a couple of weeks. So Ben is way far behind the hooded figure trying to search them. But that is why Ben has headed to the island, is Ben is searching for this hooded figure and trying to figure out who they are and why they did what they did. So that is the backstory that the players provided to me. So what am I doing with it? So first off, I'm identifying the things that I can use for the game. Number one is the hooded figure. Obviously, that's the big plot hook of this backstory, and clearly the thing that I would guess the player included as an interesting mystery moving forward and something that I can utilize. The second thing is Ben himself and his memory. He woke up in an abandoned warehouse that was taken in by Castor, has no idea who he is. I think the player told me that Ben is 3 years old. So Ben is very naive, very trusting, I think the player intends to play Ben very childlike. And so, but Ben obviously is a Warforged that, Warforged aren't born in warehouses. And this is a brand new setting. It's not Eberron, where Warforged originates from. So we have to, me and this player, because he's the only one playing a Warforged, we're going to figure out together, what are the Warforged in this setting? What's their deal? Where do they come from? Etc. But in my mind anyway, Ben clearly has a life before Castor. He just doesn't remember it. Something happened to where he lost those memories. So we have a pretty classic hero suffering from amnesia thing. But it's a trope and a cliche because it works a lot of the time. So we're going to do some cool stuff with it. So once again, I cannot reiterate, if you are a player in this campaign, go away now, especially if you're the player that's going to be playing Ben. Go away. I know that you're here still. Go. Okay, now that they're gone. So the two things that I'm looking to do is figure out the plot hooks for the hooded figure and what to do to showcase Ben's lost memories. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to steal story feats from Pathfinder, specifically their Ultimate Campaign supplement, because I really like this as a concept. I think it's a cool thing to give to players to show that, A, as a Dungeon Master, I respect and have read their backstories and am taking something from it and implementing it into the game and giving them a mechanical benefit because of it. So, luckily for me, Pathfinder has a Forgotten Past story feat. Okay, so the prerequisite for the Forgotten Past story feat is you must have suffered permanent memory loss or have the reincarnated background. So we have the permanent memory loss that has been suffered, and the benefit is, so once again, we are taking something from Pathfinder and putting it into 5th edition, so we're going to have to tweak some things. I'm going to read what it says in the Pathfinder source and then tell you my thought process for what I'm creating it into. So the benefit is the duration of mind-affecting spells, which is a specific tag for Pathfinder, even beneficial ones, is halved for you to a minimum of 1 round, and your inquisitive nature gives you a +2 on perception a +2 bonus on perception checks, and if you have 10 ranks or more in perception, that goes up to +4. So what I'm going to do, the duration of mind affecting spells, I'm going to keep that, but I'm going to keep it intentionally amorphous. I'm going to allow both myself and the player to determine what is a mind affecting spell. So something that comes into play that will have a negative effect on their mind, something like Crown of Madness or Suggestion or something along those lines, then the duration, if it has a duration, will be cut in half for them. And I know a lot of them, it's based around concentration, you get saving throws, but even if you fail all of those saving throws, you only suffer half the duration, which doesn't seem huge, but it can be in a pinch, especially if the player's rolling really poorly that night. And then additionally, rather than doing the +2 to perception checks, and then if you have so many ranks, it goes +4, I'm going to give the player proficiency in perception checks, just off rip. And if they already have proficiency because of their class, in fact, I can tell you if they have it because I'm using D&D Beyond for my campaign. So let me check real quick and I'll get right back to you. Perfect. Does not have proficiency in perception. So I'll be able to just give him proficiency in perception, and that will be an additional bonus because of the story feat. If he already had proficiency in perception, then I was going to either switch it to insight or give him expertise in perception, which I know is potent, but this once again is supposed to be something that is significantly beneficial for the player, because I'm taking their backstory and I'm making it an integral part mechanically for their character. But he doesn't have proficiency, so I'll just give him proficiency. That way it will scale with him, much like with Pathfinder where you have to do ranks to continue to bump it up. It will just grow with his proficiency modifier. Okay, and then the goal is to regain a major portion of your lost memories. The exact means can vary. It could be a wish spell or reliving a significant moment that like unlocks it in kind of the classic narrative amnesia, unlocking things by re-experiencing those things that you've already experienced before, etc. Although it does say this process must involve encountering a challenging foe, which in Pathfinder terms means that they have to have a CR of three more than the player's current level or higher. But it says it does not have to be combat. It doesn't have to be direct confrontation. You just have to come face to face with a challenging foe and regain your memory through this confrontation with them. So what does that look like if we're thinking about it? Oh, and the completion benefit is essentially, it does the whole like roll twice. You get advantage on all saving throws against mind affecting effects, which not spells, effects, which considering I'm going to be utilizing a lot of magic-like powers, a la 4th edition for a lot of my monsters, that is a great thing to have. And so, yeah, thinking about this challenging foe thing, direct confrontation, and more importantly, who is Ben? I think that's part of the question that we need to at least start down the path on. And my thinking is having Ben have been a warrior, soldier, something along those lines of some significance, perhaps even a barbarian. Perhaps Ben is the reason Ben was able to fly into a rage so easily during his backstory and kill Castor is because he always had that rage inside of him. It's just because of his memory loss, he had suppressed it a great deal. So that can be interesting. So having Ben be a former barbarian, a former berserker, something along those lines, and Ben coming face to face with somebody from his past, whether it was a rival, a nemesis, a commander, an ally, something along those lines. And, you know, the player included a certain level of prejudice against Warforged in the setting. So that can be an interesting thing to explore with them about why are Warforged treated this way? And is it just your specific part of the world that they're treated this way? Or is there some larger reason why Warforged are not treated well? But have that play into the backstory. Have Ben be dismissive of other people just because he's been burned a lot by people. He's been let down by people a lot. And so making it more challenging for this person from their past to break through to them. Now, the hooded figure. It would be very easy to say that this hooded figure is the person from Ben's past. It is the challenging foe that Ben needs to confront in order to accomplish the goal of his backstory. And that would be a very easy way to kind of tie everything together. But I kind of want to have them be divergent. I want them to be two separate through lines. That way it's not this very self-contained singular story that Ben has. Ben has two separate things. And what does it look like when Ben finds the hooded figure? So to my mind, I'm thinking that Ben is going to be able to achieve the goal of his story feat before he finds the hooded figure. At least as the dungeon master, since I'm the one feeding out the information, that is going to be my intention. The players can obviously totally wreck those plans and throw them aside. But I also think with 8 players at the table, they're going to be leveling really quickly relative to the progress of their personal stories, because, you know, they're having to go around to deal with everyone's personal stuff along with the main storyline. So it might be 3, 4, 5 levels before Ben finds this challenging foe that he needs to confront to restore his memories. It might even be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 levels down the road. And then additionally, with the hooded figure, what I want to do is I want to, once again, I'm stealing from other systems, is I want to take the powers from a 4th edition Paragon path and basically convert them to 5th edition and have it be this like unlocking thing. Basically try to make a Paragon path that fits play in 5th edition, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do though, is I'm going to hold off on picking one because I want to see who Ben is more. And I'm sure the player wants to see who Ben is more. I want to see what primal path they're going to pick at 3rd level and what path they start down, because that's going to affect the type of barbarian that I envisioned they were before. Because in my mind, Ben leveling is him getting more and more in tune with who he was as a person and where he actually comes from. And so as he levels, he is getting closer and closer to that. So, for example, I have the Primal Power 4th edition book. That is a phenomenal one for barbarians and druids if you're looking for really cool, flavorful, nature-based things to give your players. And so one of the Paragon paths that I really like is Winter's Fury, where, you know, it's this idea that you are from the icy north, and the island that I have done the map for has an icy north. The northern, like, 5th of the island is an Arctic wasteland, essentially. So that would work really well if he comes upon something that unlocks who he was, something from like the early days of whatever barbarian tribe or order he came from. So this would give you the ability, just looking at the powers, you get 3 powers with a Paragon path, And so one is Clutch of Winter, where basically when it's encounter, so proficiency bonus per day. That's how I would do it. When you hit somebody with a melee weapon attack, you can immobilize the target until the end of your next turn because you freeze them in place. That's wicked cool. Armor of Glaciers. This is a once per long rest kind of thing. You gain resist 20 is a 4th edition thing where you basically negated 20 damage. Because barbarians with raging get resistance to a lot of stuff, and I would need to see what path he takes. But I love, this is kind of like the way they do this. It's almost like temporary hit points that don't fully go away. So the idea is resist 20 is you know, whatever damage you take, you reduce that damage by 20. And it's to all damage until the end of the encounter. But anytime you reduce damage, your resistance drops by 5. So you have resist 20, take some damage, reduce the total by 20, you take the remaining damage. Now it's resistance 15, then resistance 10, then resistance 5, then it's done. And I think that's a cool mechanic. I think that's really flavorful. You encase yourself in ice and it's slowly being chipped away and allowing more and more to get through. And the other caveat is, and this is in the power, if you take fire damage, you still reduce the damage, whatever your resistance currently is at, but then after you reduce that damage, it's gone. Your resistance completely goes away. So if somebody is smart and sees they're encased in ice, I'm going to hit them with fire, then, you know, that will be taken care of. And the way I as a DM would do it is probably like the first time somebody encounters this, unless they are a fire being, then they're probably not going to think about it and they're just going to chip away at the ice. But if those enemies get away and you have recurring encounters with them and you do this over and over, they will eventually figure out and be like, kill it with fire. And then the final one, and these unlock as you level. So it's level 11, then level 12, then level 20 is when these level. I would need to look because 4th edition went up to 30th level, so the scaling is a little bit different. But the last one is World's End Rage. Basically, the way this works is it deals a crap ton of damage, is the way it's designed. It deals cold damage, and the target is restrained, save ends. And then the effect is also, so that's when you initially use this power, is you do this, and then you enter your rage as an effect of this attack. And until your rage ends, in addition to all the other benefits that you get with your rage, when you attack an enemy and successfully land a hit, that target is immobilized until the end of your next turn. And, you know, that's for as long as the rage goes on. So you can just go around locking everybody down because you're just emitting ice and cold and freezing people in place, which I think is super evocative and cool. So that's just one, if the wintry frozen theme makes sense, but there are a bunch of other ones. I won't get into all the powers of one that I really like. It's called Ancestral Weapon. And it's this idea that you are a weapon of your tribe. Like you are a chosen warrior. The ancestors have picked you to be the spearhead for your tribe. And Blood Spattered Fury is the encounter power that they get. So once again, proficiency bonus per long rest is the amount of times that you get to do this, or you can do it once per short rest if you wanted to. But you know, it's a close burst too. So it's 10 feet out from you in a burst. Every enemy that you can see in that burst is affected by this. So they take damage. It's like you're whirling around with your weapon. And you mark all of those targets until the end of your next turn. 4th edition marking rules. If you don't know them, look them up. They're really cool. I'm going to be using a form of them in this campaign. Until the mark ends, you deal an extra weapon damage on all attacks against those targets anytime you hit. So you're basically getting a free crit. But it's the same the other way. You're in such a rage, blood splattered fury. You're dealing crazy damage to them. They're dealing crazy damage to you. And that's such an evocative, cool barbarian thing of, yeah, I'm going to take a crap ton of damage, but I'm going to deal out just as much, if not more, because I might be able to attack more than one person in a turn. So that is so cool and flavorful. So I love stuff like that. So I'm going to watch Ben's progression as a character and then figure out which Paragon path and its related powers make sense for him. And then once he meets this, so this will be what unlocks when he meets the hooded figure and figures out what their deal is. What is their deal? So it might be another person from the order, tribe, whatever word we're going to use for the barbarian organizations in this world. They might be somebody from Ben's old organization, not the challenging foe that they have to confront, but somebody that has grim news about the organization, about the tribe, and is like, we need you, Ben. Or if Ben's even Ben's name, we need you. I need to ask the player that. Yeah, was Ben the name that was given to him by Caster, or did he wake up knowing, oh, my name is Ben? But this person is like, I came here to find this thing on the island, and I need your help finding it. And once they find this thing together, that will be what unlocks the final step of Ben's path towards realizing who he is meant to be as a barbarian, as a fighter, as a warrior, as a leader, perhaps. So whether it's for his old barbarian order or the Warforged as a whole, or who knows. So that's where my head's at when I'm looking at player character backstories. And this is what I'm doing with all of my player characters' backstories, except the ones that haven't sent me a backstory yet. We play this Sunday. I really need your backstories if you're still here watching, even though you shouldn't be. So, yeah, let me know what you all think about this down below. I appreciate you all watching the video. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. And yeah, be sure to like the video, comment down below, and subscribe. I've been Eric, and I will see you next time.